Good afternoon. We're gonna get back to doing work, stuff like that. I gotta figure out what I'm actually doing today, though. What a concept! Actually knowing what you're doing. It's certainly not a feeling I have very often. So I think we're gonna continue working with the effect stuff. Let's see what I've got in my notes. We are continuing with our effects. We want a 2D animated sprite that has alpha fade and size is kind of the big deal that we want. So let's take a look at what we got right now. And let's also take a look at what Adam was doing. He checked in stuff last night, but I couldn't get to his stream. His videos aren't loading for me. So let's get our project started. Get our editor built, and we'll get back on board with the rest of this. So if we're going to make something that, you know, we can just, some effect stuff here. Alpha by time, should we be doing that in blueprints, or should we be kind of setting up a system where it kind of automatically does that in C++? Well, I think we should have like a set of parameters that we can change about an object, and then we can just kind of, why don't we just have a component that we attach, and we'll make that component in C++. We'll have it take a whole bunch of parameters and stuff like that, and then you can just like on begin play, you can set up all your starting things, and it'll just automatically lerp between all the things that you want. That seems like probably the best plan. So we'll make a C++ component, and then we will configure it inside of blueprints. So let's just write that down. So we'll have an effect which changes over time, and we're going to want make a C++ component, make a UObject with lots of parameters, make it automatically tick to completion. And we should be good. We should be good with that. So let's take a look at what we got in Unreal so far. At the moment, we've got this explosion. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the sound off on that. I wonder if I should have like a G sound mute. That would also be something we might want to add, like right now, is we want to add a mute setting. So why don't we write that in there? Add a mute setting. For our game. But we probably should do that later. Yeah, I'll just write down that I need to do it. So this play SFX, what we're going to do is we're just gonna get rid of it. Bam, done. So no more explosion sounds. Excellent. So let's also make sure we got all of our little things checked out. We can actually do things. Oh man, I should totally update my stream. I'm not streaming Battle Brothers. Alright. Creative and game development. That's really funny. We are doing, let's see, 2D effects in C++ and blueprints in UE4. Let's make sure that actually changed. Yeah, this is Battle Brothers Day 2000. It's a great game. Anyway, back to actually doing stuff here. So we need to make our C++ component in our U object, which is going to have our effect configuration stuff. So we need like a new component. So where is effects? Effects are here. So we're going to chunk this guy open. It's going to be Dashkin. Oh, simple effect component. Effect, what would be a good name? This is a thing that slowly changes variables about our effect over time. So it'd be like simple effect controller component. That seems reasonable to me. So let's get this cleaned up. And the question is, when should this tick? This will tick after everything else, so it should be fine. And this should be... what type of component should it be? Just a uScene component, probably? Scene component has a transform and supports attachment. I think we just need a uActor component. So this is a basic effect controller component. Let's see what we made for like our logic controllers. Let's throw that over on our other screen so we can copy pasta all the things from our other work. So what is this? Show categories. We don't care about showing them. Class group is Dashkin. Meta is blueprint spawnable. So uActor component. We are going to want begin play and end play overrides. We are going to want an update. Well, we should just do the tick. Let's see, what is the uActor component? Do we have a tick? Is it tick or update? Well, let's go look. I should have an example inside of here. Yeah, it's just this tick component thing here, isn't it? It's been a while. I haven't really made too many components that are just like standard components. I've usually been creating components that I'm manually updating and stuff like that. How's it going, Sonicron? We're just working on setting up some effect controller components at the moment. So this will be new Dashkin simple effect controller components. Let's get. We're gonna look for the A Dashkin effect actor. Yeah. me get rid of some of these. So we had begin play, we got end play. We're gonna need tick, and that's gonna be like this. So this will be our U actor component stuff. So let's mark it up. We're trying to finish up some basic effect stuff today, and once the effects are done, we'll see. I might mess around with some level stuff and put together a sample level, but that'll be much later today. I want to get the effects in good order and then mess around with stuff after we do that. Alright, so our effect controller component. So let's fix all of our headers. Let's fix our copyrights too. It's a pretty good day over here. It's Sunday. It is sunny out. It's about 3 in the afternoon. And that's good. That's just fine. Alright. We're just getting started. Not trying to do anything complicated today. I think we got most of our stuff sorted out yesterday. We're needing to load a whole bunch of assets and do stuff like that, where we were trying to create effects, but we wanted to be able to create effects by name, not just by class and stuff like that. So we're able to get our data manager online and load our effects and play them by name. We overhauled, I think we did something with sounds. We did a lot of, we rigged up a whole bunch of effects so we can we've actually got some effects to play, like some explosions and all that. And we want to configure this guy to tick, so I'm just looking at the previous stuff that I have, and it's looking pretty decent. Animation controller component. Well, that's wrong. We want the Dashkin simple effect controller component. Parent equals get owner. So I've actually been awake for a while. I was reading over the story and stuff like that that Adam had put together, and a few other things. There's some cool stuff in there. I think the space battles with Bitey was my favorite part. So let's see. We got end play, begin play. We're also going to want like an initialize. We're going to need a U object here, which controls our lerping for our object. And there's a few things we're going to need to figure out. So we're going to need a U object here, which has the data that we want. So kind of like this. Should be a U class or a U struct. I mean, I'd assume it should be a U struct, to be honest. So why don't we just go grab that? And we are going to call it something pretty simple. This should be the F Dashkin effect parameters. So this is going to be our effect params object. And what are our things going to be? We're going to want basically I wonder if Unreal has like a pair of floats that we can use. So it'll be like start and end floats for different things. So why don't we just write down real quick all the different types of things that we're going to want. So we're going to want like a start color. We're going to want an end color. Why is this formatting all sorts of screwed up? It's annoying. We're going to want like starting scale. I want ending scale. Maybe we want alpha in here as well, so like start alpha, end alpha. And I guess we should probably also do something like have a control on each one of these parameters, such as linear or exponential for color change. We just want some basic things. So, you know, if you're going to make an explosion, it's like, okay, play this flip book. The starting color should be nothing, and like starting alpha should be 0. So we actually want a couple parameters in there. I'm trying to kind of construct it in my mind what exactly we want, because there are things like I want the effect to fade in, and I want it to like fade in over like 1 second, and then I want it to fade out, but you'd have like a fade in time or something like that. So we need like a fade in and like a fade out. So I guess that start alpha and end alpha don't really matter. Maybe we should break this up into different blocks. So maybe we should have like, and there's different ways we can set this up, but we might want to have like an effect array of things, and then you have different kind of blocks of the effect that you can modify, such as the intro for the effect, the meat of the effect, and then the end of the effect. And you're just saying like, well, color should start like this, and you'd have like a drop down enum or something like this is the red, this is green, this is blue. And we could apply each one of those individually and have like some big switch statement or something. Or we could just define everything explicitly with what you can do. Yeah, so why don't we actually do something like that maybe? So we have like effect parameters, and then we have like effect life cycle params. Let's also spell parameters properly. It's not parameters, it's parameters. So we could have kind of a couple different things. We could have life cycle params for like intro params, lifetime params, and then outro params, something like that. And then we could detect which part of the life cycle we're in for the effect, and then apply all of our lerping values and things like that. That could work out pretty well. So we'd have like our start time percent, we'd have our end time percent, and then we'd have, so color, alpha, scale, and that's probably good enough for just our basics here. So why don't we just do that? It should work fine. So let's just get started. So we float start percent, float end percent, this will be time, so we'll have color. And do we actually have like a color object? Or should we just do like an F vector or something for our color? That could work. F vector, start color, and then end color. And then alpha is just a float. It'll just be like start alpha and end alpha. And the same thing for scale. And scale should be an F vector, because we may have multiple scales, right? Right. And then I think we also want some sort of enum for the type of interpolation, like if we just do a linear interpolation, or if we do some sort of exponential. So I think we'll just do that. So this will be E effect interpolation type. It'll be EIT linear. EIT exponential. And then all we have to do is have these interpolation types here. So this will be color interpolation. Alpha interpolation. And scale interpolation. Why are you so angry at me? I don't know. I don't know why anybody'd be angry. So what we want to do is we want to assign some defaults to these things. So our life cycle params, we've got start percent. So let's just get started with it. Let's see. Just get some basics rolling along here. So start color, we're actually going to want like to start it. We want, yeah, start color should be like 111, right? Because that'll mean don't do anything with the color, you know, blend it with white, right? So, because we'll just do a multiply on it. Nothing. And we could get even more crazy or something like this, but this would just be a real basic sort of stuff here. We're not. If you want an advanced effect, just make an advanced effect, right? That's all we need. Start alpha 1.0 and alpha 1.0. We're just making some basic tools and then we'll test them out. Start scale 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. And again, this is just going to be multiplying from the start. Well, maybe it'll just be a set. Sometimes that's easier to deal with than anything else. Let's see. Alright, and then basically what we want to do is we want to take a struct here. So we want a couple public things here. Basically, we'll have effect params on our object, on our component, and then we're going to have like void set effect params. And we're going to take like a const reference to a thing and we'll just copy it out. And we could also have like set effect intro and set effect intro params. Let's just say set effect lifetime params and set effect outro params. And do we want any other basic things? We could have like a getter function as well. Maybe like get effect params on there. And then the same thing again where we're fetching the lifecycle parameters, so like get intro params. Get lifetime params and get outro params. We definitely want to be able to call those from blueprints. This is going to be effects. So we should be able to like create one of these components, then we can like snag the component and do all those sorts of things. We'll also want to make like a function which creates one of these and attaches it nicely for us. So start implementing these functions. Getters and setters, always fun. I don't like putting getters in the headers, because if you ever have to modify the getter, then you have to recompile everything. That includes that header. Can be annoying. All the annoyances. That's what we're about. Why bother? Why bother? The idea is not just to... Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, right? You know, some people are dogmatic about how they do things. The idea basically would be, if I ever need to do something, you know, when we fetch an object, I can go ahead and I've got a good place where that exists. But yeah, that's a good point. You know, why bother with all the things when it just doesn't matter? Because, well, you know, it's who else is going to be messing with this stuff? You know, in like my college projects, a lot of the time you'd try to keep your stuff like nicely organized with like public and private and all that crap, and then eventually you just be like, ah, to hell with it, and throw public at the top of the class and just like, who gives a shit? We're making this thing work. Some of these getters and setters are mainly convenience functions, so we don't have to like type out a whole bunch of stuff, and that can be just easier to work with later. So some of them, it's like that. But I can also like change everything behind the getter without having, especially with stuff I'm calling from blueprints. Like, I want those blueprints to stay as static as possible. So anytime I'm calling in from a blueprint, I want to kind of never change that interface ever again if possible, because then it'll break all the blueprints, right? So especially when there's a blueprint, I'd much rather wrap it in something that accesses it through something I can control and then get like compiler warnings about nicely, as opposed to like cook warnings or cook errors later. So kind of, yeah, kind of doesn't matter too much. And while it is a single person project, like what ends up happening is you do so much work that you totally forget where the hell everything is. So your past and future selves are sometimes very different people with very different goals. Alright, let's see. Well, we should at least be able to compile all this stuff, so let's take a stab at it. And then we'll implement the actual things. And they're not just simple getters and setters, as in just naive. I mean, these are naive getters and setters. But even they are actually, you know, shortening our call later, where they're actually, you know, going onto the effect params and grabbing outro, as opposed to something else. And it's also something that'll be much more friendly to Adam inside of Blueprints. So he'll, instead of knowing he has to go grab effect params and then off of effect params grab the outro parameters, he can just be like, oh, just get outro params. Cool, I understand this. Why is this getting freaked out? Use of undefined type a Dashkin effect active. Well, why should that matter? Like, it's just a frickin' pointer. That's interesting. It's acting like something else is broken than the compiler error. Give me some weird error about not being able to find. It's some template error, use of undefined type for this like base U object thing, which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I don't think that's the problem. Like, this shouldn't be. It's probably something else that I screwed up that's causing this issue. It's like, oh, I can't find what an effect actor is, so I can't instantiate the class. But like, no, we should be able to forward declare that. That should be totally fine. Illegal member initialization and parent is not a base member. Alright, well, I guess it is. I guess it is just one of those things. So I'm not really too picky here. Yeah, so it's getting angry about that, which it shouldn't be. Let's see if we can just rejigger this so we include it in the CPP and not the H, because I don't like. You can run into some dependency issues if you use your headers all wrong, where you can't just include X from Y from Z. It's better if you decouple it a bit. Because this should be able to define the class, be like it's a pointer, like that's fine. The compiler can figure that out. It's like we know what a pointer looks like, so we don't have to have it fully qualified. We just declare, make it a pointer. It should be the size of a pointer. It should look like it was just basically that there was a compiler error in our CPP, which was bitching about the H file because of template code issues. So what this thing is going to do is we're going to need to get things that we can alpha. We're also going to need to know our lifetime, like how much life is left in our object before we're going to blow up or whatever. So our effect actor should probably have some sort of lifetime on it, shouldn't it? Like, we've got the effect data, but the effect actor needs some sort of life object on it. Like, how would we set this? Its life should be, well, it very much depends on how we're running our effect. Like, if there's a couple of conditions here for actually knowing how long we're going to live, which is if we're playing an animation once and then destroying our object, our lifetime is based on the flipbook. Could be all sorts of crap that controls the life cycle of the object. Well, let's see real quick. We actually want this tick group for our effect controller component. Let's make sure we actually get ticked properly inside of post-update work. So it's going to be like delta time and all that sort of stuff. We want to know when our start time was, when our current time is, and then how long we're living. So the effect actor is going to need those functions. So let's just go ahead and make those functions because we're going to need them. So float, get lifetime, get duration, maybe. Get created time. Get kill time, maybe. I guess maybe we should do it like get start time, float, get end time. Maybe that's good enough. And maybe that's what we can actually do in order to let like our flipbook components and other things figure out what we need to do. We can just throw it on the actor and we can worry about it later. So we'll have to figure out what we're actually doing here. So this will be call to get the starting time, call to get the ending time. I think I could actually type with how long I've been working on games. Alright, start time. So get start time should just be start time and end time. Let's initialize these all properly. Let's just initialize them to 0 and 1, just so we don't have any crazy 0 issues. So begin play. Let me see. Setup actually does that. We're gonna grab our level time. Let's just go to our time utils. Yes, we're gonna get our level time here. So we're going to call set start time start. Set end time is going to be start plus 1. Actually, no. End time should just be like -1. So a negative end time is basically it never ends. And we should probably also get like get playtime for the effect. And we'll just basically do get the current level time, return current level time minus the start time. So get playtime, and let's also just like get duration. Get time played? No, we want like get effect duration. And these will be convenience methods for us, pretty much. So just basically, if end time is less than or equal to 0, then return -1. Otherwise, we're just going to return end time minus start time. Should be simple enough there for that. Just be getters and setters for the time that the effect is being played. Which also brings up that our effect components basically, we might want a start percent, and we might also want a kind of start time. And we will use whichever one's configured. A controller component. Alright, so start percent, end percent. Start time should be just -1.0, and end time should be -1.0f. So let's see. Missing invariable declaration. Oh, these are U properties, not U functions. Yeah, that would cause a bit of a problem, wouldn't it? Alright. Excuse me. Yeah, and the other thing is I use the M underscore and like S underscore and G underscore at the start of all my variables pretty much, unless they're being exposed to the editor. And that's just, I don't know. That's just me. I got into that habit in college, and I pretty much have stuck with that all over the place. Some people absolutely hate it and absolutely hate me for doing it. But it's saved my ass a lot of times. Especially working in scripting languages and things like that, like JavaScript or ActionScript or other things where, especially when, like LuaScript as well, where if you're missing like a this dot on the front of one of your things, then it's using like a global variable, or it creates a global variable automatically. And you're just like, I don't know why this is all screwed up. And then you see an M underscore, but you don't see like a this on front of it. And you're like, that's a bug right there. And so I started doing that after basically one of the guys in college I was working with. He was just like tearing his hair out for like 2 days over why something wasn't working. And he eventually decided just to rewrite it. Just this like block of code or whatever, just, he just gave up. He's like, I'll just write it again. Like, it should work. I don't know why it doesn't work. So he wrote it again, and then he just diffed the two when it worked. And it was just a this on the front of one of his variables. And he's just like, are you fucking for real? And if he had like a, that M underscore notation on the front of it, it would have just been, your eye just goes like, that's wrong immediately, as opposed to tearing your hair out and being like, I don't know why this isn't working. So it doesn't really work that well in Unreal though, because the editor, all these variables, uses the variable names to expose the editor. Yes, you can change like the display names, but it doesn't really work in all cases. Like, sometimes it'll use the display name, sometimes it'll use the name that is applied there, and it's just inconsistent and doesn't work very well. So what exactly? We need to implement the effect controller component. So what we want to do is we want to get the current time, get our current duration, figure out which part of our life cycle we're in, and then set ourselves to it. So the effect controller component, we need a function here that is like protected. We're going to do void update for life cycle, and we're going to pass in the percent that we are finished with that life cycle, and the life cycle params, so like a const reference to the life cycle params. What we'll do in our update tick is figure out like where we are, and then this method will actually apply the stuff to it. So let's see, if m parent is null pointer, then like we're just gonna return, just to hell with it. So we're gonna want our start. So our start, we're gonna want end, and we're gonna want percent. So start is gonna be m parent. I'm gonna write it kind of crappy to start with, and then we'll make it better. So we'll call get start time, and like end will be like m parent get end time. And our percent is going to equal our current time, right? Guess we just need our duration. No, we need our start and our end time. So I guess it's playtime. So that equals playtime divided by n minus start. So if if end is greater than 0 and end is less than start, then percent is going to be this. Otherwise, percent equals 1. To hell with it. We're going to lock. We're going to clamp it to one side or the other. But we need the percent between the percent into our life cycle. So not just the percent inside of like the entire effect. We want the percent for our chunk, which we are currently in. So we want to see if we're in the intro, the middle, or the outro for our object. Alright, so if... God, okay, so what are we doing? We have like the percent through the entire thing. So we basically want to say like, we need to figure out what we're actually using. So if our effect params dot intro params dot start percent is greater than 0, no, start percent could be 0. It's basically like, we need to figure out if we're using... Alright, let's just pseudocode it. 1, figure out which part of the effect lifecycle we're in. So if we're in the beginning, it's going to be basically if our intro params dot start percent is greater than or equal to 0, and the end percent was greater than or equal to 0, then it's going to be like if intro params start percent is, if our current percent is greater than or equal to the start percent, and the percent is less than or equal to the end percent, then we are in the start phase.